All right, and we're back. Another episode of CEO. Today's episode is sponsored, as you can see, by Sports Clips. Go out there and get your hair cut. Really cool concept, as you can see. You go in there, you sit down. You can watch any sports that you want to watch. We want to thank them for letting us use this venue today. Appreciate that. So today, we have myself, Mr. Nocturnal himself. We have my boy, Junior. This is the president, CEO, Alpha Pack Financial.
Yes, sir.
And we have Chris, my partner of Nocturnal, as well as the operations leader for Corporate Traveler, Toronto. So, as usual, you know what we do. We reach into the cup, we pick out some topics, and then we discuss them. What's it like being a CEO, business owner, looking into the future, and, obviously with the virus happening, what is business going to look like for the future? So, with that being said, just shake the cup around. We'll let Chris, we'll let Junior take one first.
Yeah, you go first.
Cut out the middleman.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'll let you start it off on what you think about that in a business world, you know?
Damn. That's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
You know what's funny about that one is, had you have asked me this question a few years back, like maybe 2018, I would have given you a completely different answer than I will probably give right now. I don't think it's a good idea to cut out the middleman.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a terrible idea. In terms of economics, it's not ideal, because now the control is one-sided. It's like, for instance, like I'm in the paper space currently right now, and this is what I'm kind of dealing with as a middleman right now. Because what's happening is there's corporations that are local, like Irving, that produce the toilet paper, and they have their own individual brands like Kirkland, and then they sell directly to Costco. I can never compete with those prices.
Right.
And with also the fact that they don't have that distribution cost that I would have to bring the container here from overseas, it makes it tougher.
Right.
But think about it, as a small entity myself, if my margins were a little bit better, and let's just say I could compete, I could do more.
Right.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I could do more long term.
Right.
Like right now, yeah, you can do well, but there's a cap. There really is a cap. You see what I'm saying? So I do feel like the middleman is important, especially right now for economics. It just makes sense to have more people involved.
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, speaking specifically from the travel industry as well, I think for anyone who doesn't know, the travel industry runs on a pretty low overall margin, net margin as well. So us being the middleman from a service perspective, the middleman is important. We're the one that's selling someone else's product. So without cutting, really can't have that at all in today. So really sticking to your point as well, just to add a little bit more color to it, I think that now more than ever, partnerships are important. And as we were talking before on camera as well, understanding how much small businesses have unfortunately gone down through the coronavirus as well. I think, again, to your point as well, I would agree. A couple of years ago, it would have been completely different, but this pandemic has completely shifted how business operates as well, completely differently. So I would say that the middleman is more probably shifted towards the partner now more than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, people have different ideologies around the middleman. I think you made a good point when you said partner. It's the word, right? So I think if you're partnering with somebody as a middleman, if it's a big corporation or a big corporate, you just want to make sure that if it's a partnership, that is going to benefit both parties, where the big corporation isn't just gouging you to make a lot of money off of you, like you were talking about margins, right? So understanding margins, understanding, okay, where am I getting the source from? Do I need this person to market? How are we going to build an agreement that's going to be beneficial for both parties? I think that's the major thing. But I do think a lot of independent business owners, as we can see, are basically saying, they don't want to partner with big corporate companies anymore because they feel like they can do it themselves. There's too many different avenues you can use now. If you're talking about social media, you're talking about YouTube, things like that. People are like, I can directly get my product to consumer.
Right.
So with that being said, do you still believe that you still need to have the middleman there. If you can get a product on your own marketing directly to your fan base or your consumer, you think so?
Honestly, it depends, because when you look at scale, there's a middleman in every level to
True.
it. So whether it's the corporation and the distributor or the buyer,
Right.
per se, or if it's the buyer and the sales team,
Right.
or if it's the sales team and the individual small business stores. Like let's just say for instance, like you look at the hair cream, you got the producer, you got the distributor or the buyer, and then you have the person that will sell it to the small individual shops.
Right.
So there's multiple middlemans or chains of business to actually make it work. So I don't think it's necessarily cutting and also I think understanding a margin and a spread makes sense.
100%.
Right? Because everybody can eat as long as the price point makes sense.
Right.
If somebody is, let's just say, has a 50% margin and they cut it down back to, okay, I'll make 15%. So this person could make their 15% and their person could make their 15%. In between, there's more than enough for even the person who got the product. Like, let's just say that product originally was produced, it was $3.
Right.
By the time it hits the shelf, it's $20, but it's still good enough for the consumer to still buy it and see to work.
Absolutely.
But in between that, if three parties made $1.50, $2,
Right.
just based on the volume of the transactions, it still works.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
still works.
Yeah. Would you say it's beneficial if somebody wants to start a business? Is it beneficial to be the middleman?
Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
Right.
Like, start where you are. I wouldn't suggest you go be the producer like day one. It depends what type of business it is,
Yeah.
too, right? But if you're, let's just say, if you have a secret sauce where you make wave cream, sure, you could be the producer day one, but you understand, like, it's gonna cost. Eventually, you're gonna have to put into your thing to scale it to a bigger level. But if for somebody like me, toilet paper manufacturer, bro, I do not have 20,000 square feet
Right.
and $4 million worth of equipment to be the producer.
Right. And I'm
See what I'm saying?
thinking too now, if you really break it down, like you look at like YouTube,
Yeah.
Uber, all these people
Selling
are
someone
middlemen.
else's
They're the
product.
middlemen.
That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think what they do well is they build platforms now that allow people to create and make money off of their platforms,
Mhm.
which I think is important going forward, especially in the climate that we're in. Like, are you building vehicles where you can employ people? I
Yeah.
think, you know, if you're not building a vehicle where I can offer somebody a job or I can give people business and things to do, then like, is your business gonna be sustainable during things like this? Like
Yeah,
pandemics?
honestly, that's a great point you just
Yeah,
pulled
that's
out.
a good point.
That's a really good point, because there's two things that is the defining factor as to what's going to make you money in this climate of business. And the one thing is, one, can you make somebody else money? And two, can you get somebody a client? Like, if you can guarantee those things,
He just
Oh,
gave you
you're-
some gems right there. Those are
Yeah, I was
gems
about-
he gave you right there.
I was about to flip that as well and
Yeah.
say, like, based on the climate that we have, like, what industry or what product or service do we think that could come out of this even stronger as well?
I think a lot.
That's what
I think there's going to be a lot of especially in B2B. I think B2B has never been more connected than they've ever been.
Yeah.
Like right now, businesses are more like, you can be in any type of business. You can have a hair salon and connect with the person who has a restaurant. For the first time ever, you have those two saying, no, we need to stick together. So like, that B2B opportunity for small business is going to be huge.
And do you think that's the learnings coming out of what we just experienced, and also, obviously, we experienced a lot of heartache, and to my previous point,
Yeah.
how many small businesses, people are, looking a lot more towards collaboration.
Oh yeah, big time.
And I think with that being said, it's like, again, what are you doing in terms of where we can collab? Like, are you developing something, like you said? And I think you made a good point. There's going to be a lot of people thinking outside the box now.
Yeah.
Like, if this happens again, do I have something
That could be,
that can still be running and still be
Right.
sustainable during this time? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's really going to come down to how much do you think outside of the box? Which is crazy, because all the creatives, I think, if you understand the business side of it and you can get the creatives into a place where they can create,
Yeah.
that's where you're gonna make money. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
Right.
it's interesting. And to your point earlier, we're talking about malls and retail shops as well. What's the future? What does that look like?
Well, that too. Like,
Yeah.
who knows what? I think the brick and mortar,
Question.
the
That's
brick and
a
mortar
crazy
thing,
question.
the brick and
Yeah.
mortar world, I think is gonna, unfortunately, it's gonna die. You know, people got Amazon again, another great middleman. You know what I mean?
I don't know if it will die.
It just shrank.
It
a
will.
lot.
It will change though.
Yeah, it has to evolve.
It will definitely downscale for sure. But it's going to be customized.
Yeah.
It's going to be very customized, in the sense of even when you walk into a store, it's attached to some piece of technology.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's still a piece of tech that you're, like you know what you're getting in the store. Oh, let me inventory list. What
Oh,
you
yeah,
guys got?
yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for
Like
For sure.
to a point where it's so specific.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think what's gonna take off from stuff like that is app development. You know, what apps can you put out here that are gonna help things like that,
Yeah.
businesses, and you know, in terms of their future, and making things quicker, easier, faster. That's the way things are going. You know,
Mhm.
how quick can I get something done? How quick can I finish something? So I think that's a major key. But yeah, great topic on that one.
Yeah, that's a great start.
With that being said,
All right.
it's on you, Chris.
Let's see what we got here. Why do you guys want to be the big dog in the room?
So I'll start with that.
Yeah, you go for it.
You know, I think we always talk about that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Why do if you're doing something business wise, why do guys always want to be the biggest, best? Why does your ego make you want to be the biggest guy in the room? I don't understand that, because it's like when you come across that way, people don't want to work with you. Not to mention, people will start to plot on your failure, or they look for your failure. You know, I think obviously from a competitive space, as men especially, that's where we come from. We're always trying to be competitors. So it's like when you're doing well in business or whatever industry you're in, you're like, okay, I want to be the best. When I walk in the room, everybody acknowledges me, knows who I am, and that sort of thing. But I don't understand why you can't be humble and still be successful at the same time, in my opinion, in business or anything you're doing, really.
Yeah. For me, I think ego causes so many issues, not only from a business perspective, but from an interpersonal relationship perspective, on so many layers. You can really layer that one down even further, right? We all have egos at the end of the day, just how big it is and how much you associate it to different things. And for guys, to your point, you know, we're so competitive. Naturally, we are protective people as well, and anything that we attach ourselves to, we take pride in that from a women perspective, from a business perspective. So naturally, we just want to always be the alpha male, and we can bring that to a sport analogy as well. And I just think it's naturally something that we go towards, but it's not always a good thing, to your point as well. I don't think you need to have some level of humility, and I think the best people can be the big dog, but also can be the person that you can have a one-on-one conversation with or a drink with at the end of the day in a coffee room, and so much as well. So I think it's you can have that mindset, but you also can be that someone who can have a conversation with the guy off the street as well. You need to be able to.
You know, not to cut you, sorry, Jigga, I know you're gonna say, but I was gonna say quickly, what I've realized and I've seen, we've all worked for somebody before, and you know, or worked for somebody now, even so. But it's like what you start to recognize is a good leader understands his humility, understands that how to be humble, and understands how to articulate messages to people in a different way. So I always find anybody that's really successful in business understands how to deal with you and deal with you and deal with me in a different way, and knows how to speak the language that we speak. So they meet you at a place where I can get the best out of you, get the best out of you, as opposed to saying, like, if I walk in a room and I want to assert my dominance right away, you don't always get the best reception from everybody, in my opinion.
You know what it is for me? It's because, first off, one, it's an insecurity, and the insecurity tends to come from the fact that they are not the big dog.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because realistically, I'm gonna be real with you. When you are the big dog in the room, you are actually very uncomfortable. When you're a billionaire and everybody here, even the wealthiest person is a millionaire, you don't want to talk.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because it's
You
like,
should be listening.
yeah, because at that point, it's like where you've reached is uncomfortable for most people. So you don't even want to talk about, like, if you realize people who are really, really wealthy don't like talking about money.
Very true.
And the reason why is because, like, yeah, they are scared of everybody else in a way because they have more to lose than everybody
Right.
else. You understand what I'm saying? So even from a standpoint of somebody coming and saying, like, oh, I'm the guy, there's a reason why, because let's be real. When you're in the top spot in business, that position comes with no recognition. It comes with no partnerships, really. Nobody you could talk to, anxiety. It comes with all of the bullshit that most people, and I'm talking about the real creators. I'm not talking about the number 2.
Absolutely.
I'm not talking about the number 3. Because I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you want to have fun and show your money, it's like quality control right now with P and Coach. You don't see Coach.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's true. That's
You,
very true.
you don't see them, but you see the artists. You see the Migos. You see Lil Yachty.
Yeah.
You see all of them. They're the ones you see. If you want to be seen, you're going to be the number 3,
Yup.
the number 2, the number 4, the number 5. You're never going to be the number 1.
Never.
Because the number 1 takes that hit so everybody else can be seen.
Right.
That's why if somebody says they're a big dog, it's funny. The guys that say they're a big dog work for the sales company. Right? you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, they're not the actual guy. If they are the guy, trust me, they don't have time for the accolades.
Yeah.
I'm trying to build something because I have people who want to be the big dogs relying on me.
I heard Cameron say something the other day, and he was talking about James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks. And he
Yeah.
was saying people hate James Dolan, but he's like, there's something to be said about when you write the checks, people hate you. But I was like, you know what? He's right. He's like, I completely sit in the same place as James Dolan because as the head of Dipset, whatever, I write the checks, I bring the money in. People are always mad at me because it's like, you didn't give me enough, bro, but you gave him a little bit more than me, bro. And it's just how it works. When you don't care about like he said about the winning aspect, about you looking at the business, how are we gonna keep sustaining, how are we gonna keep making money, that's what it's about. So like you said, I think what happens is when you really start to scale back, you don't have the time to be liked and
The
be
guy.
favored and want to be the big dog and walk in the room. But I do you still find people like that like you said, want to walk in the room and get that. Well, it becomes from, I think, so much farther back in terms of high school, middle
Yeah, I
school,
think
all that stuff.
But
You know what I mean?
Like I said, that's because they've joined. They haven't created.
True.
When you've created, you don't have the time to be worried about the opinions because you have to keep creating. You got to keep going into the lab. Like,
That's true.
the last thing you want to do is be flexing on the people that you need to. Like, bro, like, listen, as a CEO, I got to look broker than all my employees.
100%.
It makes me feel a little bit more comfortable to know that, oh, like, I'm paying you well, you ain't looking at me.
Did you see
what I'm
the
saying?
thing that Diddy said the other day? I sent it to you.
Oh yeah, I pay so much people so I don't gotta do all the
He's like, I pay people so I don't have to do it. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like, again, these guys understand you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, that know more than you. It's how successful businesses continually run because that CEO, that owner understands that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the whole ideology about this big dog thing has to kind of go out the window. Like you were saying earlier, Chris, we got to just partner up and start working. How can we continue to partner, work, make more, create more, and keep building,
Yeah, I agree with that.
Ego gets in a lot of way of a lot of collaborations and a lot of good things at the end of the day.
Yeah. But we talked about this before last time. But then sometimes, is it ego or is it confidence? Do you come across as an egotistical person if you're just confident? I think you do. I think even if you try to just be confident, people take it as a sense of you having an ego, a big ego.
But I think it can go back, like, not to do too much into psychology of it, but a lot of people who are big dogs also pretend to be big dogs because they lack that self-confidence, right?
That's
It can
true.
100% go
Very true.
both ways. So, yeah, I don't think the real alpha males really need to speak to it because they're too busy creating.
Yeah.
They're too busy
And if
producing.
honestly, if you produce, like if you really, really produce, like if you keep up, like people could say Michael Jordan has an ego all they want. But when you're winning back-to-back championships, where's the ego, bro?
That's true.
You're just living.
Like, I as much as everybody knows he does have it, it's justified.
Right.
Nobody's just saying, oh, he's a freaking asshole. It's like, bro, that's why he's Michael Jordan. That's why he's Kobe
Yeah.
Bryant. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you can't even, if somebody's producing, you can't even say it. You
That's
know,
true.
you
Yeah.
know the line is blurred at that point.
That's true. Very
Yeah.
true.
You
I
gotta have
think-
confidence. I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's
you
the
definitely,
difference
you
between
definitely have to have confidence.
elevating and understanding the confidence that you have and the ability to see things before anyone else
Yeah.
that comes with that.
Right.
And believing in yourself, like
Yeah.
like Kanye, for real. Like everybody thought Kanye was crazy. Hey, you notice that?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Kanye is true visionary, I believe.
Right. Well, with that being said, let's go to a quick break.
I love you, Mommy.
Yeah,
Untitled Chapter.
it's the Chronicles. Young gay from the DE. Let's go. Yeah, yeah. Yo, listen. They don't know about the hunger, ambition. I gotta get it, ambitious. I feel like cash is the greatest when they all listen. Play my position. You know I took those auditions, I put my all in it. And if they cross me, make them swim with the fishes. I pray to God I weren't religious, but I double my digits. Young prospect, looking at these women like objects. Objective, tell me what's next. I'm in the field, I got a hot head. I'm in the field, I might not catch. But any competition, you know I got length. I really got it. It's the Chronicles, I know they watch it. Yeah, it's the Chronicles, I know they watch it. Yeah, I know these dirty laundry need some washing. Yeah.
All right. I don't care about people's thoughts. I'll start that. So I think if you're doing anything business-wise, you literally can't listen to people, because if you do, it's going to deter you, right? So I think, to a certain degree, you should definitely always have an open ear. That was something my grandfather always taught me. He said, you should always listen to people, but you don't necessarily have to act on something they tell you, because I think you should be taking notes more than you should be giving advice to people a lot of the time. And you just made a good point. Any CEO, any business owner, anybody working understands, like, if you stop talking and listen, a person will tell you a lot about them if you don't say much. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I think it's very important to take a scale back and really just pay attention and listen, and then, move accordingly. Do what you got to do anyway, because sometimes your gut could take you in a position that person may not go. Not to mention that person may not think or have the same beliefs, that same drive that you have. So there's so many different factors, right? So I think to a degree, you shouldn't care what people think, people's thoughts.
There's a balance on that one
Yeah,
for me.
that's
It depends, because one, it really depends on the context of the advice.
yeah.
Right.
So because I'm a hard-headed person, but for the most part, I really do listen to everything.
Right.
Because I always feel like there's a little truth in everything. You know what I mean? Like, but it depends. If somebody's telling me something about, oh, I think in your business you should do this better, I'm gonna listen to it.
Right.
See what I'm saying? If somebody's telling me what I should do in terms of my life, yeah, no, you're never gonna get that. But if I can take some context out of what they're saying, and I could go between, because sometimes you would hear some great ideas from somebody about your brand or about your
Yeah,
business,
that's
and
true.
you'll be like, holy, I never even looked at it like that. Change of perspective will really put you in a place where you're like, wow, I could really elevate my customer service. I can elevate my process. I can elevate in terms of how I work with my team,
Right.
or how people perceive my brand. Like, these are small things that, even from the customer standpoint, I know some people don't value what they say, but there's a reason why surveys are now a big thing. And
Right.
data is very important.
Very
even
true.
if it ain't the greatest data, to me, I just look at it like this. I'm gonna listen because I'm still gathering data at the end of the day. If I hear something consistent, I'm gonna be like, yo, you know what? I did hear that before.
Right.
And then boom, now you can take it and you can elevate it. You can actually use it as ammo now. So
Right. No, that's true.
Yeah, it depends on the context as well, really. I think, to piggyback on you, I think we're definitely in a world of data-driven decisions, right? And we're speaking from a business perspective, you don't really know what your customers need and want, or what they feel about your product or service if you're not actually engaging with them. So you need to actually be in regular contact and understand what your client is saying. In terms of someone giving you life advice, that really depends on who's the person giving you advice and their thoughts. Is it someone you love and respect, or is it someone that knows you well? There's so many different things that go into that. From a business perspective, internally, it reminds me of a book I've recently read by Susan Scott called Fierce Conversations, and she talks about everyone within the organization has a different view of the beach ball.
Mm-hmm.
You could be the blue on the top, you could be the white, you could be the red. So that person within the organization has, if you're the CEO of the company or the leader, you have the red view because you're here on the top, but someone else who's coming to you and asking for advice or giving you advice has a completely different view. So I think within an organization, you should always be receptive to conversation.
And even to add to that, I heard Gary Vee say a line a while back that I thought was so profound. He said, the only reason why I'm so good is because I know what the customer needs and wants always. When he said that, I was like, whoa, that's so crazy. He's like, I've perfected that in every generation or any new set of consumers. I will know exactly what they need, how they need it. I know every single little bit of data and detail about the customer. So I'm always going to win because I know that end. I already got the end part figured out.
Right.
So with that just comes the mindset of, okay, we're collecting a lot of data. And the only reason why he can know what the customer wants is because he's consistently listening to what the customer wants. You know what I mean? So
I think too, like, you know, like you said, you both make good points in regards to where you're at and the context of it. Because I think sometimes, you know, you listen to somebody, and it depends. Like, and not to get too psychological again, it depends on how you process information too, right? Mm-hmm. So if you take everything in a victim type of mentality, where somebody says something to you, and you automatically take it negatively, I think that's hard to change. So I think it's easier said than done for some people, because you might tell somebody, hey, yo, like, I think this is a great idea, but I don't think you're gonna make X amount, or I don't think this is gonna work. Like, automatically somebody might take that as, in today's world, it's hate. You're hating, and I hate when people use that word hate. You know what I mean? I think people use it in the wrong context, because hate is like, I just don't like you because I just don't like you. You know what I mean? That's hate. Like, if I tell you something like, you know what, I don't really like that thing you're doing, but you know, you're my guy, and I'm just telling you out of this, and I can break it down and explain it to you in a way that you can receive it. That's what I'm saying.
But you know what it is too? I don't feel like it's necessary to pay attention. I wouldn't necessarily say pay attention to advice when you just have an idea or when you're just trying to figure it out. When you're already in the process, it's like you could talk about what the captain needs to do when the ship is still on the dock, bro. But once it sails, bro, it's a whole different situation.
That's a fact. That's true.
Like, you could say anything. You could have a bunch of advice. But fam, when you're looking back and you're seeing like, yo, Harborfront,
Right.
there's only so much we can do now.
Exactly.
But when the thing is going, then it makes sense to, you know, maybe pay a little bit more attention to it. But if it hasn't left the dock yet, you haven't really got to that point. I don't feel like in that and this is why the context was in that process of you starting something, go put it out to market, see how it works. Then you can judge, because you'll make the mistakes, and then you could start growing from there.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But before you've done anything, I'll just say keep your mouth shut. Just go do it.
You know nothing until the customer.
Yeah, 100%.
And you know what? That's what we really got to talk about in terms of, like, you know, you look at the people that are successful, that own businesses, et cetera, et cetera. These people understand that it's about execution. It's not about talking too much.
Yeah.
You know, you could talk at the end of it. So if somebody wants to say, oh, you know, I don't think this is a good idea, or what you're doing here is not a good idea, you're already in the process of doing it. So while you're doing it, you can talk about that after.
I was literally saying that this morning to one of my homies. I was just like, bro, I know so much guys, especially in the financial space, good at raising capital. Yo, dude's been raising money for like 5 years, bro. Never made a sale though. If you look at their balance sheets and if you look at their income statements, and I'm like, bro, y'all don't make no money. Like, can you guys sell? I don't understand.
Right.
I'm like, dude,
That doesn't make any sense.
it's crazy. They just raise money, and the excuse is, we need the money to do this. I'm like, dude, I'm so sick of it, bro. Like, produce. You understand what
But
I'm
that's
saying?
another thing. That's a mindset too, right? With execution, it's really about can you execute what you're talking about. A lot of people do a lot of talking, to your point, but they don't execute. So it's like, yeah, I got this great idea, I want to do this and this and that, and then they tell 20 people. 20 people now have 20 different opinions, 20 different ideas, 20 different, ways for execution, and then you just never do it. So it's like you never get to that point.
But you know what's crazy? If you knew you could execute, you wouldn't be telling them.
That's a good point.
If I have an idea and it's not in motion yet, like it's not done and ready to go out to market, if I'm telling somebody, I'm only telling them for either approval or validation. There's no reason why I should be telling. First off, if you really have a good idea, you should be fucking scared that this person might take your shit.
Right.
If you're not signing no non-competes, I think it's crazy to talk to anybody about it. If you really know and you know how to execute, you wouldn't be, bro. If you know how to execute it, you're not talking to nobody.
That's true.
You're only talking to them when it's ready to go and you're ready to sell to them. That's it.
But I also think too, though, sometimes if you're confident, and that's again mindset, right? If you're confident in what you're doing, even if I told you something, I know my execution will be completely different.
Oh, 100%.
So that to me is like, okay, I could tell 20 people, but I know that you're not going to do it the way I'm going to do it. You know what I mean?
But here's the thing, though. Why am I telling them?
No, you're right. You
see what I'm saying?
It could
Like,
be the
why am I-
validation piece. Like you said, you're looking for validation, right?
Like, I don't know why. Unless I feel like what I have could benefit this person, or they could plug me in with people that this can benefit, I don't understand why I'll be talking about it.
That's
Like,
true.
I don't see it. It's a waste of my breath, bro.
No, you're right. You're 100%. 100%. Well, that was, to me, I think it's really just going to come down to execution and to sum that all up, ultimately. But let's go to the cup. Let's go to the last one.
Last one, you're up.
That's on you, Jay.
Lucky last.
Being a good judge of character. Ooh, that was different.
Yeah, I'll start that off.
Yeah.
I think again, in the context of owning a business or starting a business and anything, I think you have to be a good judge of character, not to be biblical, but they said Jesus knew who was at the table with him, right? He knew Judas was going to kiss him on the cheek before it even happened, right? So I think ultimately what it comes down to is whatever you're doing, you got to know the people you're dealing with. I think sometimes you have to deal with people that are going to be your hater or the person that's going to tell you things that you're not going to want to hear because they're actually going to help you tighten up certain things you might have not tightened up from before, right? I also think it's good to understand what people's strengths, weaknesses are. Like I heard French Montana say something a couple of days ago. It was a good point. He's like, listen, sometimes you might have a friend or a boy or somebody that's close to you and you go, I want to bring this guy with me. And I know all I talk to you about is basketball. I can't get mad at you when I said I want you to be my head of merchandise and all I talk to you about is basketball. You don't know nothing about merchandise. So I look crazy trying to get you to do something and then you fail me and I go, well, fuck, I can't do anything with this dude. But it's like, no, that person is just there for that. So you bring them along the ride just for that. So he was talking about, characteristics, and it took him a long time to realize. 50 talked about it too. He was so disappointed with Lloyd Banks and Yayo because they didn't elevate to where he's at. But it's like, they don't want that. They didn't want the success that you have, right? So understanding personnel, I think, is huge, and understanding character of people. Like, then you can't really get hurt, I don't think, in my opinion. And things that I've done in the past, anytime I've done something, friends or not, and I go, okay, this is what we want to do, execution-wise, X, Y, and Z, you handle this. I've been hurt in times where I'm like, fuck, I told this person to do this, and they just didn't do it. But then when I really broke it down, I shouldn't have told that person to do it, because that's not who they are, right? Yeah. So I think it's very important to be a judge of character in anything you're kind of doing, and understand what you can own out of it,
This is so crazy because I was thinking about something very similar to this because I had a talk with a shorty about this not too long ago. I feel like on the basic level, you could kind of figure out if somebody has good character. It doesn't take too long to figure out if somebody has at least the foundation of being a person with high character. But for me, as an individual, I actually do not expect loyalty out of nobody. I actually don't believe. I don't believe in it.
That's deep.
I don't believe in it, and the reason why
Until they prove it to you, or just in general.
No, just in
So you
general.
don't feel that you're being let down.
No, not even that. I feel like as human beings, I understand human nature, and I understand everybody's gonna look out for themselves.
Right.
And for me, if I do good for somebody, God has blessed me and put me in the position to be the vessel to do good for somebody. They don't owe me nothing.
Right.
That's all his. They don't owe me nothing.
Right.
So I don't expect loyalty from nobody. I expect a conversation. I expect understanding. And I'm going to be understanding vice versa. But like I tell guys on my team all the time, I don't expect you to stay here. I really don't. If you are my CFO, if you are my VP, if you are my director of sales, if you run some of the subsids, I don't expect that if another opportunity came about because of where we're going, that if Microsoft calls you or if friggin' Amazon calls you and you get a good position, I don't expect you to stay.
Right.
I would say, hey, you know what? I'm going to wish you the best, but this is going to be what this is, and it's always going to stay like that. I'm always going to love you, and it's always going to stay like that. You don't owe me your loyalty.
Right.
The only thing we have is just an understanding.
Right.
You know, and for me, it's like, as crazy as it is when you play the game like that, it just so happens that people are loyal to you.
Right.
Because they know, like, you're not gonna get mad at me regardless. I'm a free individual. You see what I'm saying? It's like I told my ex, I was like, bro, I don't expect you to stay loyal to me. If you want to do what you want to do, you gonna do it regardless.
Right.
I can't stop you. I just expect a conversation.
No, I 100%. I agree.
Yeah, character is an interesting one. I think it's important in business to understand, to judge good character, and I think pretty quickly you can recognize that very quickly. Like, I think it's quickly, but I think one of the most important things is if you have trust. If we're talking from a relationship standpoint, I look at character as trust. Do you trust this person? Do you trust them with your customers as well? And if you can have that autonomy, I think, and especially in this world that we live now where everything and everyone is so isolated, how deep do you have of a trust with those people that you work with as well? And I think the character is also built within that trust as well. And I think as we've gone through this past year and a half now as well, you've seen people's true characters come through.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Oh yeah.
100%. I think again, it's a thing where, you know, once you understand, like, where you're at personally, and as you were saying, what you can kind of take out of a relationship or an interaction with somebody, and the way in which you're gonna deal with that, I think is very important because, you know, you could end up, like you said, getting too invested, and then the person, like you said, might walk away. And I think if you're running anything or anything you're doing, you should always be ready to have somebody say, you know what, I'm not gonna do that anymore.
And here's the thing, like I almost kind of expected it
Yeah.
because I believe that if you're around, like, bruh, I remember when I first opened up my store and I had 3 employees in there and I was like, fuck, these guys aren't gonna be employees in like 6 months. Bruh, I swear to you, after they left that job, they never worked the job again. Because they were just around us so much that it was like, I knew they were gonna be entrepreneurs. They were hearing all the game, they were seeing everything. I knew it. To this day, I look at one of my guys and I still talk to him all the time. Like, he's still one of the guys, like, we're still doing business together. And I believe that just because somebody doesn't do business with you in that sense, that doesn't mean you stop doing business. If you're building a book of business, like everybody in network marketing till this day, since we left 10 years ago, I could call any one of them and there's still a respect factor there. Why? Because I never held them to nothing.
Right.
I was always like, yo, I'm going to be true to you because that's our relationship. Business aside, that's just what it's going to be. But
And I think ultimately, you know, we hear it all the time, you know, does a man really want to be answering to another man? No, I don't think, it doesn't matter, even though you have to do it. Ultimately, as you said, when you're empowering somebody on a day-to-day basis, you're talking to them, you're giving them game, you're telling them exactly what you're doing, what's happening. Eventually, you're also giving them, you're almost empowering them as well in the same breath.
Yeah.
So as you're doing that, they're becoming more confident. They're like, well, if you could do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
you literally see the elevation happen. You
Right.
see them talk to you and be like, yo, boss, let me run that.
Right.
Be like, yeah, like,
Right.
Then they start doing that. You're like, yo, you're doing that a little nice. Like, then they run in the whole thing, and you're like, shit, fuck.
But then sometimes,
You know?
sometimes they hit a point where they go, yo, like, I'm doing all this stuff and this guy's not really doing anything. And it's like, yo, like I could be doing this myself. And I think all of that starts to come in and settle in for themselves.
But here's the thing that I realized I learned a long time ago. If you are the boss of your circle, in the next circle, you're a servant in that space.
Right.
So like,
Yeah.
for me, I could relate in my immediate circle being okay, being all right, or being the guy that most people come to for information. I have other groups where I'm literally the water boy. You understand? You understand what I'm saying? Like, what do you need? You feel me? I'm always there to serve.
Right.
So as a leader, you have to. A leader is always a good server.
Yeah.
And like, coming from the standpoint of being a servant leader, even to your team, to understand that, yo, I'm going to serve you guys as well. Like, that's just the nature of being a really good leader. You got to be able to have that servant.
I think that's a hard trait for a lot of people. That's why you
It
don't
is,
find.
it is.
That's why they call it the 1%ers. There's not a lot of people
Naturally,
that can do that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
People aren't inclined in that way, right? It's a skill you learn over years and years in leadership.
It's crazy. My mentor has 3 mentors. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, think about how
Listen,
crazy that is.
I
The
can
guy
agree.
you go for information had 3 guys that he goes to, and they have mentors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
I got 2 mentors too that I talk to all the time about anything I want to do business wise, and they give me game. But it's like, then when I ask them about people they talk to, give them game. So it's like it's a pass down of information.
Yeah.
But again, it's a small circle, and the higher you go up, the more success you have. You realize the more lonely it is, and it's hard to find people on the same wavelength where you can have these discussions with. You know what I mean? And I think when you really start to again assess the character of the individual you're talking to, you put them in a place that makes sense for the conversation that you have with them. You know what I mean? Because that space is the space that they need to be in. And you don't, like you said, you don't end up going, you know what? You kind of disappointed. I didn't think you would be like that or do that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. No, but I was good, man.
topic.
Another good wrap up on CEO. You know, Junior. Anything you want to shout out, Alpha Pack wise? You want us to tell us the social medias? Anything we should look for?
Follow the paper page, alphasoft.paper, Alpha Coin Network coming out real soon.
Right.
And yeah, we're just excited to really do some things in this year.
Right. Chris, anything you want to shout out?
Well, once the world opens up a little bit more, if you ever need some corporate travel services, certainly look us up at Corporate Traveler, and of course any of your leisure needs as well. I'm sure everyone's dying for a vacation somewhere warm would be nice. So look me up, hit me up. But thanks for having me. Yeah, private. Let's do it.
So ultimately, again, I just want to thank you again for another episode of CEO. Hit the subscribe button.
Yeah,
This
hit
is
the
Mr.
subscribe.
Nocturnal TV, all day for all categories, everything you're looking for. We have it. Stay tuned.
Tune in.
Stay tuned.
Skirt.